The first question is, लिखो question लिखो आप. The relationship between replacement level fertility and zero population growth is complicated. I'll expect, because you have your schedule with all of you, you must come prepared, having revised the topics back in your room. Okay, I expect कि आप पढ़ के आए, population notes देख के आए, and not randomly sit for the sessions, please. ठीक है? So the relationship between replacement level fertility and zero growth is complicated. Why I'm asking this question? Because a lot of talk about India's TFR coming down to less than 2 now. 2.2, 2.1, now 1.9, 2 के range में आपका है. So what does this mean? So in your preparation, you must prepare 4 things. One is know what is TFR properly. Second is you must know the reasons why TFR has declined and what does it mean. Third is what are the issues related to TFR decline in terms of composition, in terms of our welfare development initiatives, in terms of sex ratios, का क्या implication होगा. And fourth is of course the relationship of TFR with growth of population. हमें कह रहे हैं कि TFR का relationship, okay, with your stabilization is very complicated. Okay, so the first point is so it's like if I give you the structure of the answer, or maybe first explain what all the terms take. The first point here is you must know what is TFR. Okay, 3-4 points here. TFR is a statistical estimate. TFR is a statistical estimate of what? Of the number of children, okay, a woman will have, number of children a woman will have if the current trends of fertility continues, if the current trends of fertility continues and the mother lasts for the entire duration of her reproductive age span, reproductive age span. So current trend जो भी है वो अगर continue करता रहा and okay, the mother is lasting for the entire duration of her reproductive age span, then how many children will she have in her lifetime? That is what is TFR. So I believe you should know this. Second you should know is, what does TFR a replacement mean? What does the TFR replacement mean? Okay, it means basically the number of children per woman, so that the population size is replaced. Okay, a very important point. It does not mean zero growth rate. Remember that. It does not mean stabilization. If there are 10 people, okay, I must have what number so that okay, the 10 people get again replaced. If there are 100 people, what type of growth rate so that 100 people will again get replaced? It's called that as replacement level. Okay, it's called as replacement. Now, if I go statistically, there is no fixed value of a replacement level TFR. If you go statistically, there is no fixed value of replacement level TFR. It varies from country to country. It varies from society to society, which basically means अगर किसी country का growth rate higher है, if a country has a higher growth rate, okay, इसका TFR for a replacement will also be higher. If a country has higher growth rate, okay, तो उसमें अगर replace करना होगा, say I'm not saying equal होना चाहिए right now. I'm saying if more and more people are born, to maintain the same number, I need to have a higher TFR rate. If a society has a smaller growth rate, smaller population, then I need lesser TFR for replacement. So replacement level for Africa is not same as replacement level for China, is not same as replacement level for India. जिसका higher growth rate है, ज़्यादा population है, they will require a higher TFR for replacement. However, TFR 2.1, TFR 2.1 is considered the replacement level is considered to be the replacement level for most of the developed societies, not the very advanced one. Very advanced one mein TFR replacement can be as less as 1.5, 1.3 also. But for developed society in general, okay, 2.1 is considered to be the replacement level. Okay, if you maintain that, you essentially will be able to balance off. The 2.5, 2.1 jo hai, in that sense, it has now become a magic number. Okay? Achha, next point here. Now see, it's something like I'm spending 10 rupees and my earning can vary. How much will I earn so that eventually my expenditure and my income will balance off? Okay. My expenditure in reality could be much higher. So I gave 10 as a modest number. Think of my expenditure per month is say 1 lakh rupees. Ab kya hoga? When I'm earning money, you realize that I don't spend all my money. Okay, I spend some, I save some. I spend some, I save and save some. So if I start earning say 20,000 rupees, where I'm spending maybe 5,000 rupees, ek time aise aayega, the savings will also pile up and accumulate. Then my saving plus my income will ultimately manage my entire expenditure. Abhi mera expenditure yahan par hai. To reach this level, okay, is not my target. My target is main kitna kamau so that I will save some, I'll spend some. And if I keep doing this for a long time, like ultimately I will reach a balance. Because when I'm spending from my savings also, which means maybe that magic number is say 50,000 rupees. But 50,000 to accumulate into savings, which can pay for expenditure, will take time. So 50,000 rupees मैं कमा तो रहा हूं, लेकिन अभी मेरा balance नहीं हुआ है. Because I will not save immediately. I'll take some time. Okay, first month I saved 20,000 rupees. Next month I save another 20,000 rupees. ऐसे करते करते धीरे धीरे my savings will pile up. Maybe I'll get some interest rates and then I'll have balance. The same analogy in case of your population. So imagine there are one couple. Okay, one couple. This one couple have two children. One couple have two children. They have two children. Okay, it's looking like replacement, but the fact is, when these are alive, ye bhi alive hi hai na. Okay, so even if they have got two children, does not mean growth is zero, because these are alive along with actually आपने add किया है. फिर एक और generation जाएगा. Okay, say they have one children. देखा जाए replace किया, but at the same time third generation में ये भी alive है. Then probably another round of generation. One children. Now what happens is कि maybe now this generation ultimately has mortality. Okay, so I need 2 children per family. Okay, and after some time, those born and those dying, they will not balance off. So even if I have a replacement level here, does not mean my growth is zero. That's our point. It takes time. So magic number 2 hai, but the 2 population to ultimately balance off. Ab next generation mein, when I have got one children, फिर ये generation will ultimately have mortality rates. अब वो maintain हो रहा है. Every generation में the same row continues now. So the relationship between the TFR and zero growth is not is not simple linear. It takes time. Okay. That's one aspect. Second aspect is zero growth of population में हम ignore कर रहे हैं migrations. Okay. So in reality, this is replacement only in terms of natural increase, not in terms of migration. It again becomes complicated. Plus, then I said, replacement level again depends on the levels of society's development. Example बताया आपको मैंने. So it is not simply the society has TFR of 2.1. This does not automatically mean that this will balance off. For balancing, okay. So first criteria is, I said, it depends on the level of development. It depends on level of development. It depends on what is the population of the young age group. Agar young age group बहुत बड़ा है, even if the TFR is less, the compounding effect is more. Okay, if you have got a large base, even if they have 2 children per family, so compounding effect बहुत ज़्यादा होगा. Typically, what we call as population explosion happening. Okay, so our point of discussion is the TFR 2.1 is replacement, but TFR 2.1 is not necessarily equal to a zero growth. Why? Number one, I said this balancing zero growth depends on the level of development. This is related to the size of population. It is related to the type of society it is. Is it a very advanced society or is it a less developed society? Nigeria ka TFR, okay, for replacement काफी ऊंचा होगा, high होगा, because they have got higher growth rates. Second, I said the young population का proportion कितना है? If the base is large, even if there is TFR 2.1 replacement, will not necessarily mean immediate stabilization. It will take time. Okay. Third, it depends on the migration factors. It depends on the migration factors. Stabilization also includes migration. And the fourth is it also depends on the number of generations which has witnessed TFR of 2.1. The number of generations that have witnessed a TFR of 2.1 or a replacement level. ये बताया मैंने example आपको. यहाँ पर first, second, third, fourth generation में आने के बाद में now it starts to stabilize. So the duration for which the replacement level population has operated, also decides stabilization. So India mein we have this issue. In India, okay, on average our TFR is 2 and less than 2, but stabilization will happen only by 2030 or 2035. For the country at large. So we might stabilize around 1.6 or 1.7 billion population. Though some say we might stabilize at even 1.8. We are 1.4, we might stabilize around 1.6, 1.7 or even 1.8 billion population. Yes, Abhishek, the death rate should also be considered. अच्छा, ये एक हुआ. Second, एक और भी aspect है. Okay, this one discussion I gave 4 points. One more discussion point is that TFR essentially is an estimate. It's not that अभी actually कितना children है, ये estimate है. If this trend continues, what will be the number of children the woman will have? It's an estimate. And in reality, okay, the actual number of children per woman can vary. In reality, the actual number of children per woman can vary because of different influences. For example, in economic turmoils, in conditions like pandemic, or conflicts can have short-term or long-term impact on birth rates. जैसे कि pandemic के केस में अभी डेटा अभी पूरा हमें पता नहीं है हमें. We could have had a spike also in the TFR for some time. There can be sudden increase in women issues because of the economic and social conditions. So the point is the actual conversion of replacement TFR into zero growth is not always an assured trend. The actual conversion of replacement level TFR, to zero growth rate is not an assured relationship. कि पक्का होने वाला है, not necessarily. So TFR is something like, looking at your marks, looking at your work, your test marks. Okay, I am estimating that the probability of you qualifying probably is very high, but does not mean the results are guaranteed. TFR is more like an estimate. It's a statistical measure. Like the actual zero growth rate need not always happen immediately, at least. Sir, yes. 20 वो estimates vary करते हैं. एक होता है आपका long term estimates हैं, एक worst case estimates हैं, Okay, so our initial target was that we stabilize by 2045. Revised, okay. So it remains a question mark. Exactly कब तक होगा? So 30, 35, we're saying 70. कुछ नया report आया होगा. But this keeps on changing. So we cannot be sure about exactly कब होने वाला है. आप लिखो around 23 to 35 लिखो आप. Till it comes out officially from the census department. ठीक है? But target originally जो था हमारा as a part of NPP, it was 2045 tak will stabilize. We might do this earlier because the TFR has reduced earlier. Okay? So straight question, and to this please add some discussions on a state-wise pattern of TFR add karna. Okay, sare states of India have recorded decline of TFR. At least a table dal dena, put a map. Okay, Bihar, UP, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, sabka TFR is less than 1.8, 1.9, 1.7. Bihar and UP have TFR above national average, around 2.5 hai shayad. 2.6 for Bihar, 2.5, 2.6 range yaad rakho, but it is still less. Okay, it was around 3, 3.5. It has come down to about 2.5, 2.6. So show on the map how it has paired across the state, across the country. So that's your first question. Almost like an answer. आप इसको लिखेंगे with diagram. The next question लिखो. Next question. Examine the longitudinal contributions. Examine the longitudinal contributions of political and socio-economic factors. Contributions of political and socio-economic factors that increase life expectancy. That increase life expectancy in less developed countries. Examine the longitudinal contributions of political and socio-economic factors that increase life expectancy in the less developed countries. So your biggest catch is, what is longitudinal factors? Anybody knows what are the longitudinal contributions? Anybody? Online, which increases life. Okay. What else? Let's see. अगर ये क्वेश्चन आपको एग्जाम में पूछता, मतलब क्लाइमेट कहां से है राहुल? मैंने व्हाट टोल्ड यू इट्स क्लाइमेट? सर कौन सा वर्ड था जो आपने डिसाइवर किया इट इज अबाउट क्लाइमेट? Role of technology, policies, west versus east, north versus south. In health, what does the word longitudinal mean? The answer is, it basically means whatever changes happen over a long span of time. ठीक है? It's about time, या across time. जैसे कि आपका demographic transition model जो है, it is an example of a longitudinal study of demographic attributes of birth and death rate. तो जो कुछ भी आपके टाइम बेसिस पे पढ़ेंगे आप, how things change in time, we call that as longitudinal contributions. Okay, because time है, so 6-7 things are important part in population. What are those aspects of longitudinal time contribution? Is number one, government policies. How do government policies impact? Gender rights. How have gender rights changed in time? Health issues. How does the health parameters change in time? Education. Inequalities. Political empowerment. Socioeconomic status. Changes in lifestyle. ये 7-8 points हैं that together constitute the longitudinal contributions in life expectancy. So that's one, you should know this term. Second is, देखो, life expectancy अगर improve होगा, 4 things matter largely. One is, what is the mortality level of the children and infants? That matters. ये एकदम positive correlationship है. If children's mortality reduces, if IMR reduces, there will be overall increase in life expectancy. Children wala dimension. Number 2 is mortality rates of the adult population. Ultimately, if children are healthy, they will live longer. If the adult population is healthy, they also will live longer. Third is the mortality of the aging population. Mortality of the aging population. The fourth is, okay, women mortality. Women and mothers mortality rates. ये women mother mortality is directly related to the children and the infants mortality. Women and mothers mortality directly related to the mortality rates of children and infants. अब आपको discuss करना है with examples maybe how if I can change these aspects through policies, through education, women empowerment, through political empowerment, how it ultimately leads to better life expectancy of a society. Take all of you. So you will take up one by one. So what is the impact of education? What does education do? Impact of health, what does that? Because all of these things change in time. Okay. So write the answer. Write the answer क्या बता देते हैं broad heads. Then you develop this into a proper answer eventually. Broad heads में क्या आएगा? The first is that life expectancy is a very good measure of long-term, sustained development achievements. Long-term sustained development achievements in a society. ये short term नहीं हो सकता. अगर life expectancy बढ़ रहा है, it always will be consequence of maybe 2 or 3 decades of some work going on. That's why we say the life expectancy is a very good measure of the success of the longitudinal factors in population change. Okay, कोई और measure इतना powerful नहीं. That's why in the HDI we go for this. What has been the life expectancy at birth? It becomes a measure of the population's development under development parameters. It's a very good measure of how the development has happened over time. Next point, right down here. Improvement of life expectancy, improvement in life expectancy is the consequence of social and economic factors acting in tandem over a long phase of time. Next point, the significant controls are number one, improve in life expectancy because of a reduced child mortality and reduced IMR. Reduced child mortality and reduced my IMR. इसका 3 ही reason हो सकता है. One is better health amenities. Number 2 is better nutritional standards of children. And better early child and infant care. Better early childhood and infant care. Right next. That is why. Okay. Physical quality of life index has measured quality of health in terms of IMR and life expectancy. Next. Improvement in life expectancy because of better gender-based development and reduction in maternal mortality and better girl child health care. Maternal mortality and better girl childhood care. This implies 4 elements of social development. Mother का अगर death कम है, life expectancy will increase, and his mother death reducing implies 4 things. What are they? Number 1, it implies better reproductive child health, and better reproductive rights for women. It also means delayed marriage and reduction in pregnancy of women. Number 4, it also means better nutritional status of women. And girl child. women and the girl child. And fourth is therefore better family based healthcare. Family based healthcare. ये चारों चीज जो हैं, they can never be a short term change. They always are long term longitudinal change. The above changes are always long term longitudinal changes in a society. In India, it has taken more than 4 decades. In India, it has taken more than 4 decades of interventions. 4 decades of interventions through health workers, focus on mother's health, to reduce child and mother's mortality. I have this data with me. It says South Asia and Latin America. South Asia and Latin America have been successful in increasing life expectancy from 60 years to about 65 years on an average, because the child and infant mortality declined substantially across these regions. The most important factor contributing in reducing child mortality is control of communicable diseases and better nutrition for children. इसके साथ में एक और very important factor. Now देखो, this mother's health and child health, it is not simply about health. It also includes element of education and awareness. Okay, what type of contraceptives, what type of food habits, what type of medical interventions, ये सब education पे है. That again is a long-term thing. You cannot have a short course to teach all of this. It's a mindset thing. Right, next point. The role of education as a longitudinal factor. Head down that reduction in MMR and improvement in women health, along with reduction in pregnancies, is also a function of women's education. TFR dramatically reduces if the mother's education is beyond high school. This in turn impacts life expectancy achievements. Next is reduction of adults mortality and increase in life expectancy. इसका भी substantial role है. Now see देखो, adults में why will we have high mortality? Okay, common reason एक तो poverty है, fine. One is poverty, but a bigger reason for high mortality will be health issues like cardiovascular diseases, health issues like problems of diabetes, health issues like problems of your access to health care in case of critical emergencies. Or ye cheez elements of healthcare are more difficult to achieve. Which is difficult? Stopping communication diseases is easier, or you think addressing problems of a heart is easier? कौन सा आसान होगा? Which is easier? The first one, stopping water pollution, stopping death because of diarrhea, stopping death because of lack of nutrition, वो आसान होगा ना? So अगर adults में death घट रहा है, see, whole agenda is you must relate how did we have increase in life expectancy as a consequence of a very long running program across time. How the contribution was because of the longitudinal efforts, not one short program. So adult mortality कमाने के लिए you must deal with issues of non-communicable health problems along with poverty and the rest. And जब भी possible है when you have a sustained healthcare system, you have a sustained lifestyle awareness program, if you have a sustained care for tertiary level services, renal failure, a cardiovascular problem, nervous problem, and so on. Write down this point here. Write down. Adult mortality are more tricky to manage, than problems of infections and communicable diseases in children, Adult mortality is related to cardiovascular problems, persistent respiratory problems, chronic problems like malaria or tuberculosis, or health problems like cancer. So adult mortality rate control requires long-term health interventions. The compare करें, okay, urban areas have 5 to 10 years more life expectancy. Urban areas have 5 to 10 years more life expectancy than rural areas. Southern India, with its more robust healthcare, also has better life expectancy. India ka average is about 74, 75. India's average is 75. Southern India ka average is more than 78. Southern India average is more than 78, and Kerala has more than 83. Okay, so yes, again, it is longitudinal contributions in case of adult mortality. The next one is aging mortality control. Aging mortality control is again a long-term geriatrics healthcare interventions. Talking about chronic health ailments of aging population. Which is renal problems, psychological problems, again cardiovascular problems, mental health and depression, all of which addressed only through a long sustained medical interventions. Now, if you do a comparison regionally, if you look at the world regional level, those continents and those countries, jahan par the health, social development, awareness, education is better, they have done better in case of life expectancy. At a global level, countries and continents that have a longer history of longitudinal healthcare systems, education, lesser inequalities have done better. Africa mein abhi bhi average life expectancy is about 55 years. In Africa, the average life expectancy is 55 years compared to South Asia. Central Asia also has life expectancy of less than 60. Afghanistan mein it is again 55 and less. Essentially, okay, the less developed countries that have a shorter history of social development investments, have lower life expectancy. Having said this, एक point याद, all these जो भी बिता बता रहे हैं आपको, okay, education, IMR, women rights, health issues for adult, for older, जितना भी बात कर रहे हैं, they're only possible under a stable political system. Okay, we don't have a history where the political system is all over the place, conflicts, a lot of military coups. They will have a poor record of all of these initiatives. You know that all the above development initiatives have a strong co-relationship with the existence of a democratic and a stable government system. It requires a continuity of sustained investments continuity of sustained investments under stable governments, under stable democratic governments. And this is what is the problem in Central Asia, a problem in East European countries, wahan ka bhi kam hai. And Russia is very poor. Russia mein life expectancy is less than 60. Okay. There's also a problem in Africa. Yeah. Yes, Middle East, but not entire West Asia. Okay. West Asia. No, but then democracy is more assured in terms of that this system will sustain. Okay. China ka hai, okay, that despite whatever they have maintained their investment in the social health care. So democracy plus, okay, where there is socialism, जैसे क्यूबा में है बहुत अच्छा है, अभी भी है क्यूबा में. So अगर हम देखें कोरिलेशनशिप कौन सा गवर्नमेंट सोशल सेक्टर में स्पेंड लंबा करेगा, more likely democracy will do it. But there are examples where a country may not be democratic, but they keep on investing. उसका example China है, उसका example Cuba है, and also Iraq before 1980s, before 1990s. वही possibility. हमें तो investment चाहिए in the social sector. Okay. Otherwise, you have got the instability in the political systems like in Africa. You'll have a problem. Okay. So we want a continuity of investments. That's our point here. ठीक है? So अब इसको आप कैसे लिखेंगे? I almost give an answer to you here. Okay. Now you please go back to your room, draw some diagrams, draw some sketches, put the data on your page. I think ये important होगा in some way or the other. Life expectancy, TFR, and the growth rates. Okay. The next one. Now I will want कि आप थोड़ा इसमें सोचें, then we can discuss. Write the question, please, all of you. Next question. Discuss the problems of formation of social capital. Discuss the problems of formation of social capital of socially vulnerable categories of populations in modern metropolis. Discuss the problems of formation of social capital of socially vulnerable categories of population in the modern metropolis. All of you do some thinking on this. Imagine कि आपको मैंने ये question exam में दिया हुआ है, आपको UPSC मिला, आप कैसे लिखोगे उसको? तो all of us know define social capital लिख लेंगे हम लोग, क्या benefits है, क्या types, सब पता है हमें. पहले तो ये सोचना है कि in modern metropolis, urban areas में, vulnerable population में, do we have good social capital or not? Is the first question to be asked. Because the question says there are problems of formation, I'll start assumption कि शायद इसमें problems होती होंगी. It's impossible. I can anticipate the question. हम चाह रहे हैं कि from whatever you know, आप कैसे लिखेंगे इसको? So I'm kind of decoding the question for all of you. The first question asked is कि social vulnerable populations में, okay, do we have good social capital formation or not? My answer is probably no, because question बोल रहा है there are problems of formation. That one is that हाँ problem होती है. Basically, there's less collaboration, there's less bonding maybe, there's less trust maybe, there are less partnerships between the people. A point और क्या है? When I say poor social capital formation means this. There's less trust, less collaboration, less partnership, there is less amount of interactions between those groups. One. Second, मुझे बताओ, who are the vulnerable populations of modern metropolis? Who are the vulnerable population of slums में एक आपने एक category में सब डम कर दिया. Okay. Give me some, ठीक है, migrants और बताओ. So how are they different from migrants? This is your thinking point. Okay. When I say a vulnerable population of modern metropolis, migrants तो पक्का है, ठीक है. और कौन है बताओ? क्या वो migrants में नहीं आएंगे? Yes, I mean, think divergent. Aging populations be vulnerable. Yeah, even women are vulnerable. Okay, ठीक है. Migrants are vulnerable. Correct. उसमें कोई doubt नहीं है. Okay. Historically oppressed, so there could be some issues of class inequalities होंगे. Okay. Children not as vulnerable in general. Okay, but I'll talk about the population with physical disabilities. So migrants. एजिंग पॉपुलेशन, ये पहला चैलेंज था कि वल्नरेबल पॉपुलेशन को पहले खोल तो दो आप पहले आप लोग. माइग्रेंट्स वर्कर क्या यू आर कीपिंग क्वाइट. ओके, इवन ओके the social and linguistic minorities also. Okay, there could be small groups of some minorities, some cultural groups होंगे, कुछ racial groups होंगे. Just think of Delhi के अंदर में there is a small area called as the Tibetan camp आपका, right? वो भी एक type का ethnic group है. There are groups where we have certain untouchables historical रहे हैं, वाल्मीकि colonies जो. So आप अपने शहर, अपने गांव के बारे में बताओ ना, whatever you know, वो vulnerable हो जाएंगे. Okay, there are some pockets where we have very old populations. Why? Because maybe the people have moved out, and some of them are affluent, but they are very poor population. Sorry, but they are very old population. Yeah. Yes. Why not? Yes. Okay. Or people with different sexual orientations. ठीक है. LGBT के बात आ रहे हैं, who are vulnerable. Yes, absolutely. Okay. And migrants को अगर हम लोग segregate करें, we also have destitutes and homeless. इसको अलग रखो. You have to find ways how to segregate these social groups. Destitutes, homeless, बहुत high percentage हैं. Okay. Migrants में हम अलग करेंगे. There are some rural to urban migrants, and there are also migrants escaping from conflict areas across the border. So Germany में भी Syrian migrants हैं. Italy में you probably have Algerian migrants. France में you have got Algerian migrants. India में we might have Afghan refugees. We may have Rohingyas. So migrant करके don't paint them into one group. जितना आप तोड़ोगे उतना आपका rich answer बनेगा. ठीक है? So दो चीज आपने खोला. One is, yes, there are problems. Second is, what are the groups? Third, अब आप मुझे बताओ कि so our answer is कि yes, these groups have problems of social capital formation. My next question is, for good social capital formation, what is it that we need? जो इनके पास नहीं है. Okay, think on this, please. Okay, but education होकर भी हम इंग्लिश में गाली दे के लड़ सकते हैं. Education is, I think, the last one right now. What are lacking क्यों है? Social capital नहीं है मतलब cohesion नहीं है. ठीक है? Inequalities, okay? वो तो जनरल हो गया ना. I'm talking about within the vulnerable groups. ये भी गरीब हैं, वो भी गरीब हैं. ये भी दुखी हैं, वो भी दुखी हैं. So that's one. That there is a very high ethnic and a very high communal differences or variations, because of which they don't collaborate as one social capital group. बहुत variations होंगे इसमें. About ethnic variations होंगे. Yes, and the problem probably can aggravate when there is political polarization. ठीक है, point taken. जब conflicts होगा, riots हो गया, यही लोग तो victims भी हैं और ये perpetuate भी करेंगे. जो rioters हैं वो भी इसी group से आते हैं. Okay, you and I hopefully will not go out on the streets and do all of this, no? I'm saying hopefully because I do not know. Some of you might have a preference. कि मौका मिले तो बता देंगे, हाँ साफ कर लेते हैं. Most of us will not do this. Okay, because basically it's all about पैसे मिले नहीं मिले, कुछ patronage मिल गया. They are the ones who perpetuate, and they are the ones who also are the victims. So that's one. There's very high cultural and ethnic diversity, because of which they cannot collaborate. और बताओ क्या है? What else? This one. What else? That's part. इसी का part हो गया ना. The different identities कहा, वही तो हो गया as a part of cultural and ethnic issues. That's one point. What else? Relative deprivation, money. Yes. 30 बताओ ना, क्या money मतलब क्या? ज़्यादा है, कम है, क्या कहना चाह रहे हो? वो भी आ गया under part of your ethnic identities ही आ गया more or less. Yes, very nice. Economic uncertainties, बहुत important reason है. Okay. There's a lot of uncertainty in terms of employment. एक important wisdom ये है, social capital best develop होता है in conditions of prolonged political and social stability. Okay, it is then that the bonding, the bridging is the best. Otherwise, a small good बन जाएंगे, and the society as a large will not be cohesive society. So when you have economic instability, when you got economic recession, unemployment there is insecurity. What happens is these groups are competitive groups. वही job के लिए 3 लोग लड़ रहे होंगे. Okay, वही economic benefits के लिए there are people vying for it. ठीक है? And in economic distress, in conditions like say pandemic, ये सारे differences खुल के आ जाते हैं. ठीक है? So that's one reason. और बताओ, what else?
But they don't have permanent place.
They don't have permanent place to live. Okay, fine, ठीक, I can take that point. Basically, okay, इन लोग का अगेन जो सेटलमेंट्स हैं, देयर होम्स, देयर रेंटल्स जो भी देते हैं वो फिक्स नहीं, ये कहना चाह रहे हैं आप लोग? फेयर इनफ, ठीक है. सो दे लैक दैट रिलेटिव परमानेंस, ओके, इन देयर प्लेस ऑफ रेसिडेंस. एक जगह टिकते नहीं है. वेरी नाइस. दे लैक रिलेटिव परमानेंस इन द प्लेस ऑफ रेसिडेंस. आपको क्या लगता है कि सोशल कैपिटल बेटर कब डेवलप होता है? व्हेन यू आर पार्ट ऑफ अ फैमिली or you're alone. Migrants are largely not always families. Okay, I mean, in some ways, migrants operate like mercenaries. जहां पैसे मिलेगा वहां जाके काम करके निकल के go back home. Like, I got a job, 5-10 रुपए एक्स्ट्रा दे दो आप. They'll change their loyalties. Okay, work and go back. So one reason why there is lack of social capital is ये खास के migrants के, most migrants are not always migrating with families. यंग माइग्रेंट्स हैं, मेल पॉपुलेशन है, दे आर रिस्क टेकिंग पॉपुलेशन, और इसमें कन्फ्लिक्ट्स होंगे. आप ठीक है, इकोनॉमिकली, टेक्नोलॉजिकली, ओके फाइन. ओके, मोस्ट ऑफ दिस वल्नरेबल पॉपुलेशन, ओके, आर अनेबल टू कीप पेस विथ द चेंजिंग नेचर ऑफ मेट्रोपोलिस, बेसिकली इकोनॉमिक एंड टेक्निकल. ठीक है, एस्पेक्ट ये भी है, there is a sense of psychological and emotional isolation for most of these vulnerable populations. A sense of emotional and psychological isolation. देखो, सारा vulnerability आप सिर्फ मत सोचो from the poor perspective alone. वो समझा रहे हैं आपको. There are aging population who are rich population, but वो insecurity है कि पता नहीं who will probably take advantage of us. Like, now we are dying, we are older population, all of them are out to take my property. वो एक psychological distress रहता है. I'm sure some of you have seen older parents and grandparents, how distressed they are. Okay, they turn distressful also. I had my grandmother, वो घर के अंदर में 4 पहले अपना हैंडबैग, उसके बाद एक सूटकेस, उसको रखो, पहले के अंदर रखो सूटकेस, हम रख दिए, बंद करके we should lock it again. Okay, a lot of insecurity, depending कौन ले जाएगा, क्या ले जाएगा, it plays in their mind. That's one reason why they can't collaborate. It's about psychological and emotional and lack of security. अच्छा, इसके बाद, yes, somebody said this. There's also political factors. The political factors of patronage, vote bank politics. और ये vote bank politics ना villages में कम होता है. तो villages में you do not have as much diversity of culture and ethnicity. But don't forget, it's talking about metropolis. Okay, metropolis में you'll have more diversity of ethnic identities. There are more diversity of the cultural identities. So they have more stronger vote bank politics. This gets aggravated. ठीक है? There are different political mobilization. एक और ये सब कुछ एक और चीज लिंक करता है. Lot of metropolis have very limited resource base. Water resource, land as resource, investment resources, lack of resource base, and also the resource base is not equitably distributed. It is not equitably shared. There are a lot of haves and have nots are difference. Haves and have not differences. Okay, जैसे कि दिल्ली में parts of unauthorized colonies हैं, वहां पर major water problems हैं. Okay, there are parts of the border regions of Delhi जहां पर land problem है, and you have got problems of congestion. Okay, the power supply के inequalities हैं, and all this can again become issue of conflicts. अच्छा, ना इसी resource से एक और link concept है. Okay, the expansion of metropolis into the rural areas and conversion of the expansion of metropolis into rural areas and the conversion of the rural landscape into urban landscape. इसमें जो community bonding होती है वो टूटती है. Conversion of the rural landscape into urban landscape. There's collapse of community bonding. Typical panchayat, chopal, community living, common, all of that gets diluted. The fringe areas जो हैं, they get inhabited by migrants. Yes. And that makes the native rural population vulnerable. That makes the local population hai, they feel vulnerable. I forget that term, Haryana mein hai ye. Haryana mein, there are two type of people. One is the migrants. एक big name है उनके लिए. I forget the name. Anybody knows? There's a major conflict problem. The local Haryana population, जो migrants हैं, ये अभी नहीं है, बहुत साल से आए हुए हैं. 50, 60, 100 साल हो गया, but they still are seen as outside migrants. There's a term for that, I forget. Anyways, take all of you all done here to discuss why social capital formation is a problem in the social vulnerable categories of modern metropolis. अब इसमें आपको superimpose करना होगा any one or two cities का map and tell us what are those pockets. So for Delhi, the vulnerable pockets are, एक है नजफगढ़ एरिया, बॉर्डर के पास में है, वाल्मीकि कॉलोनी, Okhla regions, even central Delhi for that matter, parts of Karol Bagh, high migrants. There are pockets of old Delhi. The Tibetan camp जो है, एक area है near your ISBT, you have a Tibetan camp there. ठीक है, North Delhi के पास में those pockets. दोनों pocket and Rohini I'm forgetting. वो तो Tibetan वाला हो गया. Yes, I think JJ colony. Yes, JJ slums जो हैं. Yes, I think so. JJ colony. Yes, even the GTB road जो है, when that area has. So I've given some points. आप make your sketches, diagrams to show what are the conflict, और जब conflicts riots होती हैं ना, ये areas impact होते हैं. Whenever you have riots, whenever you have conflicts, these pockets have the biggest impact. और दिल्ली में एक और है, ये जो partition वाले migrants हैं ना, Model Town, Lajpat Nagar, Karol Bagh, Old Nagar, even these pockets are vulnerable to conflicts. जो refugee settlement colonies हैं in Delhi, the refugee settlement colonies of Delhi, so Model Town, Lajpat Nagar, Old Rajendra Nagar, Mukherjee Nagar. So draw this on your map and show कहाँ vulnerability है and where can the conflicts. Okay, right, all of you. Next one. Critically examine the relevance of. अच्छा, एक point में लिखा था, I forgot to mention this one. The previous question that lack of social capital. Just one point to add करो आप. Okay, आप इसको add करेंगे यहीं पर भी. Lack of social capital becomes difficult when the economies do not have complementarities. And there is excessive competition. When there is excessive competition, that's one. Number two, when the resource base is narrow and does not expand at the rate of expanding population. When the resource base is narrow and doesn't expand at the rate of expanding population. Third, if the society lacks homogeneity. ये आपको रखना होगा main center पे and discuss the rest. And of course, always add the governance angle. Okay, political issues, governance issues. ठीक है. The next question was critically examine. Yes, वही तो मैं कर रहा हूं आपका. If you look at your first discussion, ये तो था कि population में क्या questions बनते हैं. Migration, problems of population. We'll talk about attributes, life expectancy. Okay, we'll talk. ये question पूछा नहीं है. Okay, growth rates कभी discuss करेंगे हम. So I'm keeping this in mind. What I told you as important areas. Okay, what are the problems in terms of social capital? Discuss किया मैंने आपको. Okay, come back. Critically examine the relevance of neoclassical theory of population migration with reference to India. Example of neoclassical theory of population migration with reference to India. Anybody knows what this term means? What do you mean by neoclassical theory of migration? Anybody? Online, offline? Yes, correct. Yes. Factors related to wage differences are neoclassical theories. The classical theory क्या हुआ? That economic factor is a very important factor in migration. This is what Ravenstein says. This is what Lee's theory says, that economic factors are the pull factors. Poverty is the push factor. ये हो गया classical. New classical says, yes, economic factor, good, but very specifically, it is the wage differences. The wage drives migration. Wage drives migration. अब आप बताओ इसको कैसे लिखेंगे आप? Critically examine the relevance of neoclassical theory of population migration with reference to India. सही है? Examining में तो यही है ना? अगर सही है तो बताओ सही कहां पर है? What are the examples? अगर नहीं है तो बताओ कहां नहीं है? What are the examples? What are the data in support of this? Examples in support of this. That's how you structure, break up the answer. Mind में आपको तोड़ना होगा. The answer must start with what is the meaning of neoclassical theory? Because see, ये नया term है. It's not simply write a note on Ravenstein theory. ऐसा नहीं है. ठीक है? What is meaning? Why is it called neoclassical? बताया मैंने आपको. The classical theories around economic factors is about push factor of poverty, is because pull factor of employment. Migration is towards industrial centers, urban areas, Ravenstein's theory, or even Lee's push-pull model. Neoclassical very specifically mentioned, it is the wage differences. एक example कुछ याद है आपको notes में? Some of you will have it. One example that talks about wage differences. Lewis-Ranis theory. L-E-W-I-S, Lewis-Ranis. R-A-N-I-S, Lewis-Ranis theory, example of a neoclassical theory. It talks about wage differences. वैसे ही उसका hint है, if remember, there is this Zelensky's mobility transition model. याद आ रहा है? He talked about this, no? That with urbanization, we'll have migration of the migrants as a part of the labor economy. Zelensky's mobility transition model. क्या बताओ आप? इंडिया में एप्लीकेबल है या नहीं है? यस और नो? और कहां पर एप्लीकेबल है? गिव मी वेरी स्पेसिफिक एग्जांपल्स ऑफ कहां एप्लीकेबल है. या हु इज माइग्रेटिंग एंड व्हाई? फ्रॉम वेयर? कौन से स्टेट से पंजाब में जा रहे हैं? फ्रॉम बिहार, फ्रॉम यूपी, पंजाब में भी और हरियाणा में भी. यस, एब्सो वेरी गुड. और क्या बताओ कहां पर है? आईटी हब से दे आर लीविंग इंडिया. Because of wage differential, yes, the migration to US, the migration to parts of your Australia or Canada, yes, absolutely. Construction industry में है, because of higher wage differential, the rural population in the informal construction industry and also in the gig economy, right? और मुझे region चाहिए, yes, from Kerala to Middle East, absolutely. So please write down. तो ये सब आपको पता है, जस्ट आपको स्ट्राइक नहीं कर रहा है कि यार ये मैप बन जाएगा फटाक से. केरल टू मिडिल ईस्ट, केरल से रेस्ट ऑफ इंडिया आल्सो फॉर दैट मैटर. द एडुकेटेड हेल्थ सेक्टर में है, एजुकेशन सेक्टर में है, एंड फार्मर्स माइग्रेटिंग फ्रॉम द हिंदी हार्टलैंड टू पंजाब, टू बिहार, टू केरल आल्सो. लॉट ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर लेबर केरल के, दे कम फ्रॉम बिहार एंड यूपी. Migration from the tribal pockets, झारखंड से, छत्तीसगढ़ से migration into metropolis urban areas. बताया आपको from Kerala to Middle East, from Bihar and UP to Middle East as construction workers. So yes, wage difference. This is what's called as the labor arbitration का advantage. ठीक है? From northeast India into parts of Karnataka, into Mumbai. So yes, it is not wrong, it works. अब आप बताओ कि कहां पर ये काम नहीं करता है? In India बताओ ना. Yes, rural to rural migration because of marriage. This is the largest component of internal migration, almost more than 40%. Rural to rural migration because of marriage. Migrating with families, migrating at birth. एग्जाम्पल बताओ ना. इंडिया के इंडेक्स पूछ रहे हैं ना हम लोग. ये तो आपको थ्योरी को प्रूफ कर दिया आपने. आप प्रूफ कर रहे हो कि माइग्रेशन होगा बिकॉज ऑफ वेज डिफरेंस. नहीं है तो नहीं होगा माइग्रेशन, ये कहना चाह रहे हैं ना. ये थ्योरी को प्रूफ कर दिया आपने. जहां पर डिफरेंस है माइग्रेशन है, वही तो थ्योरी कह रहा है. हम कह रहे हैं कि डिफरेंस हो ना हो, there can be migration, such as marriage, such as migration because of education is a very big category. पता नहीं आप अपने आप को मानते हैं या नहीं, आप भी migrants ही हैं, all of you. Education opportunity is not simply wage rate, right? और बताओ, reverse migration, that's not a very big number. Okay, fine. Yes, because of conflicts. Our migrations because of conflicts, climate refugees, escaping disasters. वो ड्राउट्स हो, वो लैंडस्लाइड्स हैं, वो स्टॉर्म्स हैं, साइक्लोन्स हैं, ठीक है. ब्रेन ड्रेन किस में आएगा? ब्रेन ड्रेन, इस पे अच्छा खासा आधा पेज लिख लेंगे आप लोग. इज इट न्योक्लासिकल? न्योक्लासिकल नॉट येट, इट्स नॉट वेज ना. थोड़ा ब्रेन ड्रेन शुरू होता है फ्रॉम एजुकेशन. अल्टीमेटली यस, इट माइट रिजल्ट इन बेटर वेज रेट. वो एक्सपेक्टेशन है, ठीक है, बट द इमीडिएट रीजन इज एसेंशियली एजुकेशन अपॉर्चुनिटीज. Long term, probably it could be better wages. लिखेंगे आप डेटा इसको. So not all migrations are always because of wage differences. हाँ. वो तो next level जाएगा ना. आप अभी you are going ultimately आप जो भी काम कर रहे हैं for ultimately better economics, no? तो आप ये पढ़ाई क्यों कर रहे हैं? ठीक है. So ultimately economic factor is very important factor. I'm not saying no. But आप जो जा रहे हो यूएस में पढ़ने के लिए यूनिवर्सिटी में जा रहे हो ना, okay, ये बच्चा जॉब मिलेगा, then probably converts into a better wage. But better wage not necessarily यूएस में है, वो कहीं भी हो सकता है. इंडिया में आके better wage पा लें, वो मिडिल ईस्ट आके better wage पा लें. They are not really migrants because of better wage. The migrants because of education opportunities, which in the future may convert into a better wage opportunity. So long term मैंने कहा yes, it applies. Short term immediate reason में we'll say it is an education migration. हमें वो categorize करना होगा ना. There's 6-7 categories we have. There is for employment, for business and trade, okay, for marriage, moved at birth, moved with families, education. I hope you remember the list. What are the factors for internal migration? Okay, so brain drain पे अलग से लिखना आप. Write down some data on that and say this also is an example of migration, but not wage advantage in the immediate context. Diagrams, I repeat, अब आप diagrams बनाओगे, draw arrow marks, कहाँ से कहाँ जा रहे हैं. So simple diagrams, not entire map of India. Okay, so you have this, so this, better wage migrations. ठीक है, तो ऐसे आपको 2-3 दिखाना पड़ेगा. यहाँ पर there is agriculture labor shortage. There's agricultural labor shortages. जितने भी metros हैं, okay, you talk about Mumbai, you have got Delhi. Mumbai receives from Telangana, from Karnataka, parts of MP, यहाँ पर from Rajasthan, from UP, from Bihar. The construction workers are examples of, again, ऐसी diagram बताते रहना आपको. कहाँ से जा रहे हैं? Where are they ending up? From Kerala towards Middle East, again example of differential wages, neoclassical wage. ठीक है? Okay, that's one question. The next question is how rural settlements have been changing under urban pressure. How rural settlements have been changing under urban pressure in developing countries. How rural settlements have been changing under urban pressure in developing countries. Batao, let's see. Don't just write entire rural urban fringe, okay? That's one, of course, okay, but okay, आपको elements बताना पड़ेगा. Okay, what are the elements of rural landscape changing under urban pressure? कैसे change होता है बताओ? Rural settlements की बात हो रही है. So first talk about the morphologies. Conurbation, come on यार, you कहाँ से कहाँ पहुंच रहे हो? Rural settlement है, वो change हो रहा है because of urban pressure. सीधा आपको दिखा देगा conurbation, बताओ. तो सोच के देखो, go slow all of you. Okay, Sashank, I'm not asking how rural areas change. I'm saying how rural settlements are changing. Settlement का मतलब होगा what type of roads, what type of construction, what type of land use pattern, what type of social segregations. Okay, what is the impact on infrastructure, what are the elements of settlements there. उसकी बात करें ना आप, वो नहीं करके आप सीधा पहुंच रहे हो womanization of agriculture. Okay, this is very sad, Shashank, if you are not thinking. Her word up, spend some time on this question. जल्दबाजी क्या है इसमें बताओ? एंड आई एम हिंटिंग, डोंट ब्लाइंडली राइट अबाउट अर्बन फ्रिंज एंड स्टार्ट ऑफ. आप बताओ क्या एलिमेंट चेंज हो रहा है? व्हाट इज इट चेंजिंग? ऑब्वियस चेंजेस क्या होंगे? वन ऑफ कोर्स इज द लैंड यूज पैटर्न्स एंड द टाइप ऑफ क्रॉप्स आर चेंजिंग. पता है आपको अर्बन फ्रिंज में? एग्जाम्पल बताओ, व्हाट टाइप ऑफ क्रॉप्स इन लैंड? इंटेंसिव फार्मिंग होगा, एक्सटेंसिव फार्मिंग होगा, you'll have dairy farms, you'll have urban market gardens. That's one aspect. So when I say rural urban fringe changing, it's a range of entire change. I am focusing on बताओ settlement कैसे change हो रहा है? बिल्कुल yes. The construction changes, the design changes, the material changes. Instead of agreed, if there are connectivities, you'll have more and more expansion into linear settlements. Agreed. Organic farming. Rohan, okay. उसको एकदम अभी साइड में रखो. जो आता है, okay, don't pump that into your answers. Take it slowly. कि morphology change कैसे कैसे elements में होते हैं. Change in land use patterns, change in land use intensity. Okay, this is the elements of settlements. Formation of central marketplace. मतलब किस कंटेक्स्ट में बोल रहे हैं आप? वो तो मंडी वैसे भी होते थे विलेजेस में. ओके, so there is element of disaggregation of economies. वैसे कहना चाह रहे हैं? I do not know this. If you have examples, इस example बता रहे हैं कि earlier 3, 4, 5 villages would have one common marketplace. Now because of connectivity, every village has its own marketplace. इसको but एग्जाम्पल मेरे मन में आ नहीं रहा है. I do not. ठीक है, if it works fine. Remember, ऐसे questions में if you have examples in mind, then mention those and develop the answers. Okay, कहीं आप देख रहे हैं पंजाब में, कहीं देखा आपने लुधियाना में, कहीं देखा in parts of Bihar. How has happened? Yes, Ashutosh. Change in house designs. So yes, there's more concretization of buildings. और खास के recent times में, because of the Awas Yojana, rural Awas Yojana, okay, the houses, amenities, sanitation, we have cooking stove, all those elements have now come into rural housing. And partly because of, we are trying to replicate the urban living in rural areas. Okay, what else? One of you said there is linear expansion, agreed? Yeah? वो तो बता दिया आपको, market gardening, truck farming. So these are extensive urban recreation amenities. So urban resorts बनते हैं, urban resorts, urban water parks. Yes, so though they become elements of a rural landscape. Okay, you also have a rural industrialization also. Industrialization includes warehousing, light manufacturing. सबसे common आपको landscape में दिखाई देगा stone crushers. Because of the urban pressure, urban construction needs में. Okay, the rural areas will have stone crushers. They will have brick industries, brick kilns, quarries. Yes, building material, stones के लिए quarrying होगा. थोड़ा सा patiently ठहराव के साथ सोचोगे ना, सब आंसर मिलेगा. You'll have all the answers if you a bit more careful. So now you remember or you should have studied a model called as Watson's exploded model of city morphology. सुना आपने? जिसमें कि there are leapfrogging developments, there are squatters. Okay, so you have go back and check your notes if you have not studied this one. There is ribbon development, and a lot of squatters like this. These are leapfrogging developments, and this happens because of urban sprawl. हाँ राहुल, वो point taken care. Farmhouse for marriage हो गया. Okay, मैरिज के लिए भी और सारा पंजाबी पॉप सॉन्ग के लिए. 3 चीजें चाहिए पंजाबी पॉप सॉन्ग के लिए. कार चाहिए, फेरारी वाला प्रेफरेबली. Okay, you need to have one a trophy girl, okay, who can be a partner there. And secondly, बड़ा घर होना चाहिए. फार्म हाउस बन गया आपका. सॉन्ग तो बाद में हो जाएगा यार, कैसे मर जाओ. ठीक है. गन्स, ओके, गन्स तो पता नहीं मुझे. हाथ तो मूव होता ही है ऐसे ना. Auto tune, okay, robot. Okay, fine. We call this as leapfrogging development. Leapfrogging is like patches में ऐसे फैलेगा. Leapfrog development. अच्छा, rural areas will also have, okay, will also have the secondary CBDs. Secondary CBDs with expansion of suburbs. Suburb जो development कहाँ पर होता है? It happens in the rural areas. Suburban expansion and development of secondary CBDs or outlying business districts, outlying industrial districts. अच्छा, pressure of urban area के वजह से have we not discussed about Sinclair's theory that says the rural landscape can also have urban blight. There will be areas of neglect waiting for urban land price to increase. वहां पर ना खेती हो रहा है ना कुछ नहीं हो रहा, बस ऐसे पड़ा हुआ है. Land fallowing big time because of speculative land price. Theory's name is Sinclair's theory. While discussing von Thunen's, we discussed this. Von Thunen says कि जहां पर market होगा, around the market there is a zone of high intensity land use because of higher rentals. Sinclair says no. Around the market, this area is a zone of urban blight, urban neglect. यहाँ फार्मर बोलेगा यार खेती करना ही नहीं है. I'll just wait, let the price increase, a small patch of land sold, and that takes care of 2 generations of his needs, economic needs. Okay, इस urban blight areas में क्या होगा यहाँ पर? यहाँ पर landfills बनेंगे. Okay, here you will have unauthorized constructions. Here you will have colonizers, all because of the pressure of the urban area. So they typically develop as areas of urban shadow. They develop as areas of urban shadow. You can have a case study of Gurgaon. Okay. At the moment you have said this, an urban sprawl, then write down the elements of urban sprawl. Extensive land uses, very high social distances, is a commuters, private car wala say lifestyle, high social distance, extensive land uses, urban malls. There's social segregation बहुत high होगा, yeah? वो बाद में, okay. But initially it will be very high social distance, very high inequalities होंगे यहाँ पर. Yes, because they develop into dormitory towns eventually. Okay, and of course these areas will also have very poor urban amenities, drainage, construction, power supply, sanitation, all missing. So the moment the question says changing under urban pressure, और वो भी developing countries, वो भूलो नहीं आप. मैं यहाँ पर बहुत high urban sprawl चल रहा है, developing countries, very high inequalities हैं. अब लिखो answer इस पे. And please, you need not write only about Delhi. I'm sure some of you know about your own cities. Bangalore ka ho, Mumbai ka ho, Kolkata ka ho, Chennai ka, wherever you are, you'll have some. Uska map bana ke aap dikhaएं, please. I'll suggest let this be your kind of assignment work. Aap ghar jao, from the questions I've discussed, draw your own city and tell us what type of areas are there. Yes, okay, fine. Okay, and end the answer towards integrated development of urban rural areas. The need for new urbanism, the need for master plan development beyond the municipal boundaries, a strengthening of local governance bodies, panchayat ho, urban local bodies, jo bhi unka strengthen karo aap. One paragraph, you are done. Okay, that's for today's class.